Hi, welcome to Taji's World of Books and welcome to another book series recommendation video. Hey everybody, welcome back, and today we're going to be doing a book series recommendation video on J.M. Darhower's the Sempre series. There are two books in the main series, a companion novel that sort of explains everything, and then two really short novellas that are in a little bind-up. And I'll explain what I mean by all of that in a minute. Okay, so first let me give you backstory, and then I'll talk a little bit about each of the books because I don't want any spoilers, and then I'll also talk about a preferred reading order of the books so that you won't have any spoilers, because the way that they have it listed in Goodreads is a no-go. Don't read it that way because there's a ton of spoilers. Okay, having said that, this story or this series is about the Chicago outfit. It's a mafia story. It's a little bit odd. Like, I was thinking about how to explain this to you, because these two books, Sempre and Sempre Redemption, are a new adult series that are about the children of the main characters. And let me explain. So this story is about a mafia family, the DeMarco family. And it's about secrets, lies, deception, untold truths, and what it really is like to be in the mafia, and then the dark underbelly of the mafia, which is slavery and having servitudes, household servitudes or slaves that are basically stolen from other families and put into years of servitude, and what that is like. And so this series is not a glamorized version of the mafia. This is a more realistic telling. J.M. Darhower weaves a really complicated, complex story that shows villains that are good but not good, but heartless but caring at the same time. So caring and loving for the people that they love and their family, but heartless and ruthless killers in every other respect. So if you're looking for smut and all that other stuff, this is not really going to be that, but it is definitely a love story nonetheless, in the sense that there is intense emotions and sacrifice that happen amongst the main characters. So that's the backstory. Okay, so the first book, Sempre, is about the main characters are 17-year-old Haven and her significant interest, Carmine. And how the story starts off is Haven clearly is in a servitude, a slave situation. She's taken to an auction and she sees a murder happen. And as a result of that, that really carves her thinking and the things that her choices and the things that she does in the rest of the book. She is then taken by another gentleman, and you don't know who this gentleman is, but we later find out that Dr. DeMarco is the one, Vincent DeMarco is the one who takes her, and he brings her to his home. She is clearly malnourished and not well taken care of and very sheltered and doesn't have any concept of the outside world because she's never been exposed to the outside world. She's grown up on a ranch in the middle of California with no exposure to anyone, and the only thing she's ever done is hard work, and the only thing that she's ever known is abuse and neglect. Okay, so she goes to live with Dr. DeMarco and his two sons, and he gives her free reign. And what we start to see is that you're really sort of confused about the relationship between Dominic, the brother, one brother, and Carmine, the other brother, but you start to clearly see that Dominic is really looking out for her. Carmine is also looking out for her, but is very taken and fascinated with her. The brothers don't understand why she doesn't have any understanding of what movies are and what popcorn is and why she's always waiting on them, and they don't get it, but they quickly start to understand that that she was taken from an awful situation and brought in to their home to do what, they have no idea. You also start to see that Dr. DeMarco is very heavily entrenched in the Chicago outfit, and Carmine is what's considered a principe or a prince of the mafia, and they have high hopes for him. He, however, does not have those same aspirations and doesn't want any part of this, but you quickly start to see that he is getting pulled into this situation, whether he wants to be or not. and the plot sort of starts to unfold. You start to see that there are secrets and lies and lots of things that are going on. You start to meet other characters, like his godfather, Sal, who is the boss of the family. You start to meet Corrado Moretti, who is Vincent, his father's really good friend, but he's this dark, enigmatic character. You meet another guy named Enzio, and Enzio sets his sights on Haven and what that all means. And so, of course, everything comes to a crescendo in this book, in the sense that, you know, there is a kidnapping and there is, you know, an attempted rape and murder and all kinds of things that are happening in this story, both with the parents, right, Dr. DeMarco and Corrado and Sal and all of those guys, but also there's stuff going on with Carmine and Haven and Dominic's significant other, and another guy named Nathaniel or Nate that's in this story, that there's a clear relationship challenge or difficulty that he's had with Carmine, and you're trying to understand, because clearly Nate is interested in Haven and Carmine wants no part of that, and you can tell that they have bad blood and bad history. And so this story, and it's really interesting, right? And clearly the relationship is developing between Carmine and Haven, and there is a significant love interest, and he's willing to do whatever because he cares about her, and they promise each other sempre, always, forever in Italian. And so, you know, what does that mean when you promise always and forever? And so the mafia is not through with her. The mafia is not done with her. There are secrets about her past that you're trying to discover and trying to figure out what's going on. And everybody's going to pay in blood, sweat, and tears in this book. And it ends in a crescendo of a way that brings in a lot of other characters. Okay, that's the end of this book. That's a 4 out of 5 star for me. So then the follow-up to that is Sempre Redemption. And we see that this was a tough book. This was a 5 out of 5 star. It was really, really good. You see that Carmine makes a choice and does some things to save Haven that really puts everybody in jeopardy and tears them apart. We see that Corrado really steps up. And in this book, Corrado, you see, is a villain. And part of me really just despised him for all of the things that he does and the things that he makes Carmine go through because of a commitment and a pledge that Carmine made to save Haven. And Corrado is going to make him honor that pledge at all costs. And Corrado really seems to be the one who is keeping Haven and Carmine apart, and really honoring his pledge to keep Haven safe and to allow her to live a life. And Carmine is the one who's spiraling completely out of control. And you can see in this book that Corrado doesn't really know how to handle that, or doesn't handle it well. And so he does it in the best way that he knows how, which is with an iron fist, and it just is not working. You see that Corrado has a relationship with his wife, Celia, and Celia is the sister of Vincent DeMarco. So this is all about the DeMarco family, right? So you've got the boss, the DeMarco boss, and then you've got his children. And his children, he has 2 children, Vincent and Celia. And Vincent has 2 children, Carmine and Dominic, and Celia is married to Corrado. And so this is all sort of unfolding, and you're getting more of the story, more of the secrets, more of who Haven really is. You're starting to find out who her family is and the backstory and why there's all this infighting and how that relates to the overall sort of power structure in the Chicago syndicate or the Chicago outfit and what that all means. And I cried in this book because I really feel for Carmine. Carmine is not handling anything well. He's not handling the PTSD of his past. He's not handling the PTSD of his current situation. This is this 17, 18-year-old kid, and he's 18 now. His brother has gone off to college, and he is thrown into this life that he's not ready for, and he's not prepared for, nor can he handle or can he deal with. And so it's overwhelming to him, and he doesn't cope. And so everything that he sees throws him deeper and deeper into trauma and into PTSD. And it's heart-wrenching and hard and difficult. And the very thing that he needs, he doesn't have. And so it's a story that really, really unfolds. And it's about how to overcome, how to deal with PTSD, how to deal with trauma, how to grow up, how to become a man, how to become an adult, and what that means. And Haven is adulting, and Carmine is adulting, and Carmine has nobody to really guide him except for Corrado, and Corrado is not the best demonstration of that. And so in this book, I really found myself really disliking Corrado on so many levels, because he just is hard and cold and calculating and indifferent and just a villain, just not nice on so many levels, just awful. And but so wonderful to Celia, his wife, so kind to her, and so giving and willing to go to any lengths to do what she needs. And so it's really interesting, his dynamic with Celia versus his dynamic with Carmine. It's like night and day. Or his dynamic with Vincent, and he's just really like, make a choice. Make a choice. You got 5 minutes. I'll be outside, and whatever you choose, I'm going to hold you to it, regardless. I don't care. No, regardless. And if I need to put you in the ground, I'll put you in the ground. Like, so, and Carmine says he's threatened to kill me like 5 times throughout this whole series. He's just, you know, and I have no doubt that he will do it. And so, but this was a 5 out of 5 star nonetheless. Okay, so then let me talk about this. So this is the novella, and there are 2 stories in the novella. It's Friends and Forever. And let me say this. You can choose to read this after you read these 2 books, right? And so Friends tells you is really the prequel of these. So you can choose to read Friends prior to Siempre, and then you understand the whole dynamic and what's going on between Carmine and Nicholas. I called him Nate, and Nicholas. You understand that they were friends, something happened, and as a result, there's a significant falling out. It's referred to in here, and they talk about it, but they don't really go into it. So you know something happened, but you don't really know what. So you can read Friends first and then go into it. The challenge is that you don't really have a context when you read it like this. Whereas if you read this first and then you read Friends, then you kind of go, okay, now I get it. Now I understand. So you can read Siempre, Friends, then Sempre Redemption, and there's no spoilers and you're good. Or you can read Sempre Redemption, and then read both of these and you're good. The second novella in here is Forever, and Forever really is after the epilogue of Sempre Redemption. Then you can pick up and you can read Forever here, and it's a complete story. And these in and of itself are a wonderful story, and I'm going to say that these are a 4.75 star out of 5. Really, really good. I absolutely love it. I love where things wound up. I love the full circle. I love the arc. I love the character development. I thought it was really well done. J.M. Darhower weaves a very complicated, complex tale of everything with all the characters and bringing it together. So, and you almost need a family tree to kind of get it sorted and get it figured out. But she did a great job here. Okay, so then finally, then you come to Maid. And Maid is the story of Corrado Moretti. And I love it because it really... You really do have to read this last, because if you read this the way Goodreads says to read this, then read Friends, then read Siempre, then read Siempre Redemption. Don't do that, because this book gives spoilers to what happens in here, and it's better to go backwards. So to read, it starts at Corrado's story, and it goes all the way through and weaves in these stories as well to the very end. And so it's made because it's like, you know, these guys are working to become made men, they want the books to open up, they want the mafia to induct them, and once you're inducted into the mafia, you never leave and you're set for life. And so Corrado works very hard to become Maid. But it also is, how did he become who he is? This cold, calculating villain that has no empathy and no remorse and no feeling, and is just he's almost Aspergery in that he has no emotion. He demonstrates no emotion whatsoever, and he has no compunction about killing. He has no compunction. He doesn't feel bad about anything that he does. The only thing that he cares about is protecting his family, and he does that at all costs. He has a very traumatic and abusive and neglectful childhood. His mother is an alcoholic. His father, Vito, is in the Chicago outfit. And you learn about and the first person that ever demonstrated that they truly loved him was one of the slaves that was in his home. And she told him one day, "I love you." And the very next day she was murdered by his mother. And he goes through and says that the only person that ever really truly told him that they loved him was Celia, his wife. And Celia is the daughter of the boss. And he says in one of the other books that, Antonio allowed me, it was easier for me to convince Antonio to marry his daughter than it was for Antonio to open up the books for me to become Maid. And so he has a very twisted sort of relationship with the DeMarcos in that he looks at the DeMarcos as Vincent and Celia, and then Carmine and Dominic, as having a life that he never had, because he worked through blood, sweat, and tears to accomplish and achieve everything that he has in life, and it didn't come easy to him, and he worked for every ounce of it. And Vincent, for example, Dr. DeMarco, was handed, and the books were opened up to him, and he never established, he didn't put any work, he didn't have a crew, he didn't do anything, he didn't deserve it, he didn't even want this life. And Corrado has wanted this life forever since he was little, because it's all he's ever known and all he's ever seen. And so there's a lot of jealousy and resentment that go on in here. I'm going to say that Corrado even himself says that you need a villain and that you need the boogeyman to do these awful bad things because it makes the hero that much greater. There is not a hero in Corrado. He is so complicated and so complex, and he's not like any other mafia, dark romance character that we've ever read. Like, when I say this dude is a bad dude, he's a bad dude, and there's nothing redeeming about him. Like, I don't look at him and go like, he is this like has a soft underbelly that only his wife sees, and he's kind, and no, he's not. And how Celia tolerates him and deals with him and is happy with him is beyond me. But she is, and they figure out a normal for them that works. One of the things I think that really bothered me about this book that I didn't like and that I don't think was fully fleshed out is that he decides, because of something his mother says to him and because of who he is, that he does not want to have children. He just doesn't think that he is a father material or could ever be. And you see that in his relationship with Carmine. Like, he's no good at it. For sure, he shouldn't. But J.M. Darhower never discusses it. You never see the conversation between Celia and him where they decide that children are not going to happen. So you don't know if he basically is just like, Celia, not happening, and that's just it, and we're not even talking about it, and she just doesn't address it, or if they sit down and decide it together, but it's never addressed. It just doesn't happen. And so I would have liked to seen that fleshed out a little bit more and see what that conversation looked like, because it's very clear that Celia does want children, but it just never happens. And it seems like a selfish thing, maybe on both sides, one for her wanting children in this life because it's dangerous, and maybe one on his side for like not even considering how his decision to not have children is going to negatively impact her. But he in all, like I said, is a very complicated character, and but as the story unfolds and you start to see the backstory of this stuff, you go, oh, now I see. And I'm not going to say it's redeeming, but at the same time you go, this is sometimes the challenging and difficult choices that a made man or a person in the mafia has to make in order for the people that they love to be safe. And so it really does unfold and it comes out, but at the same time, you know, he's complicated and complex and multi-layered. Did I enjoy this story? I absolutely did. Did I give it a 5 out of 5 star? I absolutely did. Do I like Corrado? No. He's a villain for sure, and he's not a good guy. Whereas some of our other guys are, you can see, you love them. You love to hate them. Corrado is just, don't meet him in a dark alley, like, for sure. And he's not even good to the slaves that are around. He's not kind. So, I mean, I could go on and on about him, but he definitely maintains an aura of don't get attached, never get too close. There are lessons that have to be pounded into him, you know, since that have been pounded into him since his childhood. And those are the words that the DeMarcos make it difficult for him to follow. So he finds that he's like entwined with these DeMarcos, and he's like, they're gonna be the death of me, these DeMarcos, because they just don't get it, you know, but he does. And so all in all, I'm gonna say that J.M. Darhower is an amazing writer who, like I said, wove a complex tale with twists and turns and plot development, character twists, and a very, like, really complicated, complex characters that suffer from PTSD and trauma and need redemption and need healing and need a love interest to help guide them and do good things for the sake of doing good things. They're the right thing to do, but do it on the DL and, like, really silently and really quietly, and you never find out about it until after the fact. So having said that, if you're interested, go and check it out. This is not the end of my J.M. Darhower deep dive. I am going to start Monster in His Eyes and that series, but I had to pause because the other books didn't come in yet. And so I started another series, and so I'm going to do that series, and then I'll go back to J.M. Darhower. So there's more to come. So having said that, you guys, that is all that I have for today. I hope that you check out the series and you enjoy it. And you know, I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye, guys.